There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
All right, we're actually recording now. After a mess up, we now welcome on Josh Callaway, the first recurring guest in Program Guys history. Josh is on. He was at OU practice on Monday. The media was allowed in there. And Josh was telling us that before the whole Cale Gundy thing came about, practice, they were already going to be at practice. So, Josh, I want to start with what you saw at practice today. It was open to the media. How long were you there, and what was kind of some stuff that impressed you that you saw out of the team? And then we'll move on to the Gundy stuff.
Yeah, no, so it was pretty cool getting to go to practice again today. It was something that was very often in the spring, which was nice, and I mentioned this before, but it's a little bit of a misconception that Lincoln didn't let us go to practice that often. He did let us go to practice a handful of times in the spring and in the fall, but it was always for very small windows. It was basically useless, essentially, is the nicest way for me to put it, because you just didn't see anything. The guys are just like stretching. Quite literally, it's just like guys are stretching. And after like 10, 15 minutes, you got escorted out or asked to leave. And so while we took it, obviously you never got to see much, but with Brent, he allows us to be there for much longer, much closer, like 45 minutes or so, which is a huge help because we actually get to see these guys do some drills, some, Oklahoma drill type stuff. Receivers run routes and running backs do stuff. Offensive linemen we really get to actually see them do things, which is nice. And so today was interesting going in for the stuff you just mentioned with Cale. We weren't sure really how the attitude was going to be going in. What is this going to be like? Because, this was already planned. We knew early last week that we were going to go to practice on Monday. And then the assumption was that we could talk to Brent and some players afterward. Now that didn't happen, but we still got to go to practice. And we got there. I thought it was a little quiet-ish, like not quite as boisterous as normal. But after like a minute or two, I didn't really think that anymore. It got pretty, vivacious pretty quickly. And it was an intense practice. There was a lot of pushing and shoving after plays are over, after, reps are done. Some words exchanged, some like very mild skirmishes. Stuff you like to see at a football practice. Nothing crazy. This is what you want. Guys are intense. They're locked in. They're into it. So it was a good practice. It was, physical like always. Brent's always bouncing around. And in the times that we've gotten to go in the spring and the fall, I still really never see these guys take a break. They're just getting after it from the time we walk in to the time we leave. I don't know when they take breaks. I don't know if that's a thing from the times we've gotten to go. So it's it felt like normal. It feels like football's coming up soon, which is nice. Less than 4 weeks for that first game. And you can tell they're getting after it and they're getting locked in, getting ready to go for that opener.
All right, let's get to it. Cale Gundy resigning after 2+ decades at the University of Oklahoma in any sort of capacity. What do we know at this point? And kind of give us a timeline of what you understand has happened and transpired over the past 24 hours.
Yeah, shocking stuff, obviously. Cale Gundy has been, an OU assistant since 1999. He's the longest tenured OU football person that there is in this program. Coach, administrator. He predates everyone essentially in this program. So it's going to be just removing all the context around it. It's just going to be strange and weird to not see Cale Gundy there. He's been on the sidelines for forever. It's all I know pretty much is Cale Gundy being part of OU football. And, in my time doing this in any sport, he's been one of my favorites to hear from. He's always been extremely friendly, and he's one of the few coaches that I've seen in any sport again that will chop it up like in pregame. Guys are warming up, and he'll step over to the sideline and crack a joke with somebody. He's very loose, and he's always been somebody that everybody, and you've seen that a lot with the statements from his former players over the last 24 hours or so. Just overwhelmingly positive. Families have always loved him and all that. So it's going to be just weird, first off, to not have him around anymore because he just went the program for so long. And then, the way this has transpired has been crazy. And admittedly, hand up. I don't know if every, Big J would be willing to admit, I guess, but I had no clue this was coming. Normally these kind of things, even if we don't report it or something, we kind of hear some whispers of it. We can kind of get prepared, try to figure out some more info. This was a total blindside for us. This just came out of nowhere for us. And so just letting it wash over you of like, what happened now? He posts that big long statement. You're scanning it as fast as you can to try and figure out what is he saying here. And it's so interesting because, the way his statement was painted and the way he described the situation, it obviously left a lot of room for OU fans to kind of question it and say, how is this enough to let this guy go who's been at OU for over 2 decades? Shouldn't a guy who's been so good to the program for so long, played at OU, shouldn't he have more of a rope here? And, Brent Venables clearly heard that. So I put out a second statement today to kind of reaffirm his decision. And what he put out there didn't really jive with what Cale put. And he was saying he said the word multiple times, stuff like that. So they don't quite sync up, the two statements. And so now it's kind of like, okay, what's the real end here? I mean, what exactly did happen? Who wanted this decision to happen? Because it sounds like from all indications are that most of the players, most of the team were in favor of Cale staying despite this happening. So it's shocking. I mean, it's just so strange to not have him be around anymore, and how OU recovers from this, how quickly they get another receivers coach in August, and how they can, limit the damage on the recruiting trail is going to be fascinating to watch here over the rest of this month.
Yeah, it's obviously big news that came out obviously in the past 24 hours. So appreciate you giving us an insight. I know the program's focus has always been on the players. So I know it's only the first day of practice, but wanted to get some insight for you, what OU fans can expect other than just the big names like DG and Marvin Mims and the steady Eddies on that team. But who do you think will be a breakout on both sides of the ball that Sooner fans can see that maybe we just haven't heard of or currently under the radar?
Yeah, for sure. I'll do one on each side of the ball. On defense, I am really interested in Justin Harrington just because, obviously he was this guy that was so highly thought of, so well talked about in the previous regime. Alex Grinch and those guys all loved him. It's not hard to see why. When you're at practice, he's big and strong. He stands out. I mean, his size and everything, it's like, yeah, it feels like you could probably use that guy. And Brent Venables, he leaves the program. Harrington enters transfer portal after a long time, decides to come back. Venables decides to let him come back as a walk-on, basically giving him a chance of like, okay, you can come back, but you're going to have to seriously earn it to get a spot on this team and to carve out playing time or something like that. And it's just, he looks great at practice. And, it's just fascinating because this guy clearly has a lot of talent. Coaches who know what they're doing before really, really liked him. Does that translate to this new group, and does he fit in somewhere? What's obviously a very competitive defensive backfield with Justin Broyles, who's been there forever, then Billy Bowman and Trey Morrison and Key Lawrence and all the Jordan Mukes looks great, freshman last year, going his second year. So it's going to be interesting to see where he fits in. He's a fun one to watch. I think it's Justin Harrington. On the offense side of the ball, I've been banging the drum for Bentavious Thompson for a few weeks now. He may wind up doing nothing. I don't know, but I just have this feeling, this hunch that he's going to get in there in some way. And I don't know how many OU fans even know that this guy is on the team. He transferred to OU like in the dead of the night. Like he just was there one day, like quite literally. He didn't
like
even
Baker Mayfield kind of just kind of showing up.
Yeah, he really did. He didn't announce anything. He did later, but he didn't announce he'd already been at OU for a while. And our own John Hoover, who works with me, he's the one who confirmed it. He saw some pictures of him and just shot him an email like, are you at OU now? And he was like, yeah, I transferred to OU. Like, just confirm it for us because, like, nobody has said anything about this. So, he's so interesting to me because at UCF with Dylan Gabriel, with Jeff Levy before, he was really productive. I mean, if you take his 3 seasons, 2020, 21, and 22, and lay him down, or 2019, 2021, lay him down to what Kenny Brooks did last year, they're extremely comparable numbers. I mean, yards per carry, touchdowns, just total yardage, all that stuff. They're eerily similar numbers. I'm not saying he's Kenny Brooks, but he was productive. He was good. It's just to reiterate the point that he was good. So I encourage OU fans to go watch his tape, look at his numbers, and see the fact that the way Dylan Gabriel talked about him at Big 12 Media Days, talking about the guy, how hard he works, how much he loves him, and how glad he is that he's gotten this opportunity. It feels like he's going to make the most of it. He's been in college football a long time. He graduated high school a long time ago. He's an older guy. He didn't play football at all last year. He was at UCF just as a student. He had a complete year off. Wasn't even on a roster. So it just feels like he's got this new lease on life, kind of like this new approach. And I'm fascinated to see what he looks like. Maybe it means nothing, but that second running back spot is so up for grabs after Eric Gray because Marcus Major's the trendy guy. And then you have these freshmen, Barnes and Sawchuk, but it's just like nobody's running away with that job. There's no obvious number two. Like, it feels like the fact that he already has a prior relationship with Gabriel and Levy, like he has a chance. So I'm excited to see what he looks like as well whenever they get to game action, and if he can work himself in there at all. Because it's just, I don't know, I just have a weird hunch. I'm like the only one talking about him, but I just have a weird hunch that he may get in there at some point and surprise some people.
Josh, OU football has really kind of been on a roller, not even a roller coaster, just a rise of positive emotions since Venables was hired. And it's only gotten better month after month. And if you follow the program, everybody's been kind of saying this team at some point is going to face some kind of adversity. We thought it was going to be during the season. We're in the first week of camp and they're already here with some kind of adversity. Mm-hmm. I said, I think this is really going to let us know how much these players have bought in to Brent Venables and what he's been selling because of how popular Cale Gundy was. Do you kind of agree that this is really the first real test that these guys are going to have to face, and whether or not Brent Venables' whole system, these kids are really bought in?
Sure. No, 100%. Because, I mean, obviously, like you said, I mean, since Brent took over, it's really been nothing but positive. He hasn't had hardly anything negative to deal with. The only negative thing he really had at all was when the recruiting was kind of down for like a minute before it got going really, really hot in July. That's about literally all he's had to deal with. So the fact that he has this big thing happen right at the start of camp, because like you said, for most fans and media, everyone, when you get to camp, it feels like you survived. You survived the offseason. Now you're just hoping for not injuries, basically. But you've gotten past the players getting arrested phase or anything crazy like that. Like you survived that. Nothing happened. Team is fully healthy. Brent said at media day they're 99% healthy at that point, and that he wasn't worried at all about the 1%. They seem like they survived the offseason. They didn't have anything. And then you have this happen right at the beginning. It's going to be very fascinating, especially considering the coach that it is, because of the reason we just talked about with the fact that Cale has been there so long. He's so well liked. So many players love him. He's such a good recruiter. He brings these guys in, obviously the freshman receivers, Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson, the transfers that he brought, J.J. Hester from Missouri, L.V. Bunkley Shelton from Arizona State. This is probably, it's hard to, outside of the coordinators, obviously, this is probably the hardest position coach to lose just because of how ingrained he is in the program. I mean, he's an OU guy through and through. I mean, the last 3 decades, he's been at OU for all but like 5 of those seasons. I mean, he's been there forever. He is OU. So it's going to be tough. And this is a major challenge for Brent. So far, we've kind of gotten a little bit of a peek into how he handles these types of things. It's been a little surprising to me, the fact that they put the statement out right away, which made sense. That's not surprising. You saw them put out a statement really quickly after Caleb Williams hit the transfer portal too. Like, they're very quick on that. But I was a little surprised that he didn't meet with the media today, especially because that was, a prior plan was to go to practice and then meet with media or, coach and then some players probably. That didn't happen. And then he puts out that second statement today, which I get why he did it, but also kind of just felt like if you just had a press conference today, you could have avoided some of this kind of, public opinion swaying back and forth thing. So we'll see how he handles it moving forward. I would be floored if he doesn't have a press conference at some point in the next 2-3 days. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it's tomorrow, for that matter. So we'll Tuesday. So we'll see how that shakes out. But it's the first time that Brent Venables has had a real legitimate challenge, and how to handle something and weather the storm on something. We'll see how it plays out, obviously, in the weeks and months ahead, because there's still a lot that we frankly probably don't know about all of this. It's unprecedented, and it came, again, for us at least, just out of nowhere.
One more for Josh before we let him go. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, BV is going to be handling the defensive side of the football. But for fans who don't know who Jeff Lebby is and his offensive system, what can fans expect from Jeff Lebby's offense that maybe we haven't seen from years past?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see this offense a lot because, first off, the speed, which has been talked about a lot, tempo. Saw a little bit in the spring game. They are going to run a lot of plays. That was something Theo Wheat said at OU Media Day last week. We're going to run those plays in the country. That's what he said. He didn't say that was a goal or a prediction. He just said it. We're going to run those plays in the country this year, as if it was fact, basically. So they're going to go fast. I think that's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be hard for defense to keep up with. That's something we heard all through spring and the early part of fall camp from the defensive guys, especially too, is that offense goes quick. That's going to be tough to keep up with for these other teams that we play this year. And then also, I think there's going to be a major emphasis on getting the ball to their best players, which sounds so obvious, but obviously last season there were times where it was like, why isn't Marvin Mims getting the ball more? Why isn't Jaden Hazelwood getting the ball more? Why isn't Stogner and these tight ends getting the ball more? And I don't think that'll be as much of an issue with Jeff Lebby. I think there's going to be a much bigger emphasis on Marvin Mims is our best receiver. Well, let's throw him the dang ball. He had 37 catches last year. It's going to be way more than that this year. Barring injury, it's going to be double that probably. At media day, he talked about how Braden Willis is going to be, quote, very, very involved. And I think if you're an OU fan, you got to be like, yes, thank you, because the tight ends never once did the tight ends take over a game last year. And that's when they had 3 legit guys. One guy's in the NFL now, Austin Stogner, who's a former 5-star, and Braden Willis is, one of the biggest freak athlete guys that OU has had. So the fact that there's an emphasis on that is got to be really encouraging as well. And I think they're going to throw the ball a lot. I think they're going to let Dylan Gabriel air it out. Jeff Lebby said he loves Dylan Gabriel's deep ball. He loves to attack down the field. He's excited about that. And the one knock on Lebby, if you're going to have one, is that he's never had a 1,000-yard rusher. So it would be surprising if they ran the ball enough to get that from, you would assume, Eric Gray. But it's not impossible either. So we'll see how that shakes out. Obviously, Lincoln was much more balanced than people gave him credit for. People like to put Lincoln in a box of like air raid, throw the ball every play. Anybody who watched OU knows it was never like that. I do think that Jeff Lebby and this offense will throw the ball at a much higher clip and, much higher percentage of the time. So it's going to be a fun offense to watch. The plan is points and points quickly. So I think anybody would sign up to watch that.
Perfect. Josh, we're going to get you out of here. For people who don't know, we were interviewing Josh, and I screwed up and I didn't press record. So Josh stuck around for twice as long as we asked him to. So give him a follow on Twitter. Check him out on All Sooners. Josh, plug whatever you need to right now because I've taken up too much of your time already.
You're fine. You're fine. Josh M. Callaway on Twitter, especially right now. We're getting to the meaty part, getting to go to practice and talking to these guys regularly. So definitely want to keep up with us, and allsooners.com is the website where I throw all my content. Right now, there's like 7-8 minutes or so of footage from practice today. You can go check out just what it all looks like, what guys look like. I recommend you go take a little bit of time, see that, and whatever players say throughout the spring, we put all those videos up. So while it's obviously a website and it's got lots of written content that all the guys do, tons of video there for you as well. So if you're an OU fan, definitely recommend checking that out.
Check out Josh and John Hoover on All Sooners. Josh, thanks so much, man.
Yeah, appreciate you being here.